Happy Tuesday and welcome back to our live episode of Season Sunflower Hour. I am so excited to have all of you tuning in. And if you haven't done it already, you know my little reminder that's coming up. Make sure you click the follow, click the like, and subscribe because you do not want to miss any of this exciting stuff that we have coming up. And again, tonight is no exception. I cannot wait for you guys to meet our guest tonight. He is going to blow all of you away, but I'm going to tease it out just a little bit. So before we get to our guest tonight, I want to remind you guys of some really great things that the chapter has coming up, because as always, the ALS Association's Greater Chicago chapter has so many amazing things on their calendar, and I don't want you guys to miss any of that either. So first, we have the teleseries that we talked about last episode. So it's got a new name, it's got a new look, but it's still all the same great information for free as it has always been. So the Care Services webinar, Living Well with ALS, is going to be happening on February 8th. It's a Tuesday night at 6 p.m. It is completely free for you to get on, see, and learn all kinds of information. It's going to be about legal and financial planning for living with ALS. There's going to be a lot of great tips, a lot of experts in the field that are going to be there to help you and walk you through all the things you need to know when it comes to the legal and the financial planning. So if you yourself are going through this, or if you know anybody that is in this situation, please refer them to our new Living Well with ALS, to our teleseries, the Care Services webinar. The link is already up in the comments section for you to jump on board. And again, it's free of charge, and there's some incredible information that you're going to get out of this. So spread the word and make sure you guys log on. Also, our first look for charity is still coming up, and we still have tickets left. This is super exciting. So if you haven't got your tickets yet, make sure to get those now. Sam will also put that link up in the comments section because she is a master behind the scenes here. But that is coming up. First look for charity is coming up on February 11th, and I cannot tell you enough how amazing this night is. You get dressed up. You get to come in your gowns and your tuxedos, your suits, come out to the Chicago Auto Show, and you get to preview this before it's open to the public. So you get to touch, you get to sit in, ride, see all of the amazing cars that are there up close and personal, because once this auto show opens, it's insanity, and it is so hard to get near any of the cars. You get to see them all first. And not only do you get to see all of the cars, you get to taste all of the food from some of the best restaurants from around the Chicagoland area. You get so many yummy treats, lots of delightful drinks and experiences. The whole night is just incredible. Not only do you get a great night out at an iconic place in the city for the Chicago Auto Show, but also you are donating to the ALS Association, which is helping so many people, and all of the services, again, that they provide are free of charge. So have a great night out and help out a charity. Win-win for everybody. That's coming up on February 11th. Tickets are still available, so make sure you hit that link in the comment section to get your tickets before it is too late. And also, one more thing, just a reminder, it is almost Walk to Defeat ALS season that is coming up, and the Chicago Walk kicks off first on June 4th. The website already open, so if you haven't done it yet, you can create your own walk team. You can sign up for someone else's walk team. I know we had one before. Maybe we're going to bring back the Sunflower Hour team, but if we do, you can join our team. All of that information will also be up at the link that Sam provides in the comment section, so make sure you check that out. And what's really cool this year, so thanks to the pandemic, we haven't been able to have an in-person walk in a while. They have all been virtual. They have been hybrid. This year, we're doing a combination of both, which is really exciting. The in-person walk is back, so you can come out, you can cheer everyone on and support them in person and be with our ALS community. But if you cannot make it, or if you aren't ready yet to come out and be with everybody in person, you can still do the virtual walks from wherever you are. So you don't even have to be in Chicago or the state of Illinois to do this. So from anywhere in the world, you can participate in the walk happening on June 4th. Or if you're doing virtual, you can make it whatever day works best for you. So check out that link as well. Like I said, the website is open, so you can sign your team up and you can get involved. And either way, we are just happy that you are here, that you are part of our Sunflower Hour family. So even if you can't participate in these 3 events, there's plenty more opportunities to get involved. And thank you so much for being here tonight and for watching and for the continued support, because we love all of you guys so, so much. We're so excited. And I'm really, really excited to introduce my guest to all of you tonight, because I know you are going to fall in love with him. My first conversation with him, I already fell in love with him. So I can't wait to get to talk more with him and find out all these amazing stories. He has had such an exciting career in the medical field. After his residency at John Hopkins, he went on to a post-doctorate fellowship and an expedition. I can't wait to talk about this. He went on a real-life expedition. That just sounds so cool. I'm thinking of Indiana Jones when he was telling me about this. He went on an expedition that increased his knowledge and skills of experimentation, disease, and biology. He has spent 30 years of his career focused on ALS. Dr. Roos is a Marsery and Robert Straus Professor of Neurological Science in the Neurology Department at the University of Chicago Medical Center. He also proudly wears the hat of director for 2 different organizations, with a lab and with the ALS Clinic at the University of Chicago. So please welcome a pioneer in the field of ALS research and the director of the University of Chicago's ALS Clinic, Dr. Raymond Roos.
Thanks so much. I feel very humble after that wonderful introduction, Susan. And I probably should have taken some uppers to be a little bit hyperkinetic here. Anyway, it's my pleasure to be on this program and to answer anything you want to question me about.
I love it. Well, Dr. Roos, I feel like I didn't even do you a little bit of justice in that intro, because you honestly, I'm not just saying this, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I am so blown away by just everything you've accomplished, the entire career you've had, but especially that you have dedicated the past 30 years of your career to help us in this battle to end ALS. So like I said, that intro doesn't even do justice to what you have accomplished and what you've continued to accomplish. So I'm going to pick your brain. I've got lots of questions for you, because I really want people to understand what you're doing. Because when I say that you are a pioneer in this field, I wholeheartedly mean it. What you are doing is so incredible. Thank you for being on this team and fighting this. So let's get in, let's dive in, because I really do have so much for you. So first, let's go back a little bit, because when we had chatted, you were telling me about some incredible mentors you had in your life. And one particularly went on to win a Nobel Prize, which I think is pretty amazing. And his research not only won 1, but 2 Nobel Prize for this research that he was doing. So first of all, what was it like to get to work with a Nobel winning scientist? And what is one of the most valuable lessons he taught you as your mentor?
I could probably talk for some days about my mentor. And of course, mentorship is very important. It's important no matter what you do. And I've had some wonderful mentors in my life, but let me just mention 2. One of them in medical school. There was a neuropathologist who got me a job that basically paid for my tuition and told me about this individual, D. Carlton Gadashek, who was at the National Institutes of Neurological Diseases and Stroke, part of the NIH. And he said, you should interview with this person, and maybe he would provide some work for you to do. And I interviewed with Carlton, and next I knew that he accepted me in his laboratory. And that was a very exciting, actually 2 years. He was a pioneer in the sense that he discovered this disease. This was in the 1950s, called Kuru in New Guinea. That, and I don't want to sound too grisly here, but this disease was spread in this particular tribe by endocannibalism. In other words, when somebody died, they had a ritual cannibalistic activity, and cannibalism was not outlawed at that time. And Carlton did amazing things. And one of the amazing things, he had been trained in infectious disease. So he thought, oh, this could be some transmissible disease. But all of that failed. However, there was another individual who was studying a disease of sheep called scrapie. And he knew that scrapie was transmissible to other sheep with a very long incubation period, years. And so he had a letter to the editor saying, I suggest that Kuru be attempted with respect to transmission and keep those animals for a long time. And Carlton did this, transmitted Kuru with an incubation period of a year and a half, actually into non-human primates at that point, and then went on to another disease similar to Kuru called Creutzfeldt-Jakob. And he won the Nobel Prize, just one Nobel Prize. However, there's another Nobel Prize that was won for these diseases as well, not by Carlton. And pretty much we call these diseases prion diseases. So Carlton was a very famous and also a very infamous scientist, and I won't go into the latter. But one of the things that he taught me was that dogma, scientific dogma, medical dogma, may not be correct. In other words, who ever heard of a disease that would take a year or 5 years or 10 years or more than 10 years to be transmitted? And Carlton was an unconventional person working on these unconventional diseases. And just so that listeners understand these diseases, mad cow disease is part of that whole group. And the epidemic of actually Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease in the UK came as a result of transmission from sick cattle into humans. So I think it's very important to have mentors, and Carlton taught me, don't be afraid of doing unconventional things and not paying so much attention to dogma. And I think that's important in science and medicine in general.
I love that. I'm just listening to you, just thinking so many things about all the stuff that you said in these diseases. And I love that. I love that you had somebody like that.
Let me add one other thing, and that is,
I
spent 2 years at the NIH. I was a resident at Johns Hopkins, and Carlton called me up and said, the San Diego has given me this boat to go to remote islands in the South Pacific for 2 months. And getting together a number of people on an expedition. Would you like to go? And I was a little bit cautious about that because there I was a resident. I had to go into my chairman of the Neurology Department at Hopkins, Guy McCann, and say, you know, I was asked by Carlton to join him on this expedition in the South Pacific to remote islands. And I wasn't quite sure what he would say. And Guy said, how wonderful, how great this is. I found out subsequently that Guy McCann was a sailor, and he was at San Francisco, and he used to have a race from San Francisco to Tahiti. So he knew the Pacific, and maybe he loved the idea that I was on this scientific expedition. And it was a turning point in my life, the idea that science was so important, exciting, and could take disease and medicine and solve things.
I missed, I'm so bummed. I'm gonna have to watch the video, but I cut out for a while, so I missed what you were saying. But by the time I came back in, you were talking about the expedition. I said, no, I missed the exciting stuff.
Well, I'll send you my memoir, Carlton.
Yes. Seriously, please do, because I want to hear, even just you telling me on our phone call that you went on an expedition. I'm telling you, I just imagine Indiana Jones, and I think very exciting things. So I love that you got to explore that.
Let me tell you that it was a little bit scary, and I won't go into the adventures that we had, but there was a little bit of Indiana Jones in it, for sure.
You know, as an interviewer, I don't even know how you give me that little teaser and not expect me to dive in on that. Can you just give us just give us a taste, some type of adventure that you went on this expedition? Just give us a hint of something.
I'll tell you one very scary episode. And that is, we were off a rather remote island called Anuta, A-N-U-T-A. And in fact, there was an archaeologist on Anuta who was doing his PhD thesis on this island. But it was stormy. And so the expedition boat couldn't get into shore. But a couple of people actually swam in. And the next day, some of the islanders had a canoe and took us in by canoe. And we went swimming that day. And I realized it was very rough. But I said to myself, well, I'll only go in up to my knee. But sometimes you can't do that. And immediately these waves took me out, and they were smashing on my head. And truthfully, I thought I was going to drown, but there was a very good swimmer nearby. And he said, I'll get a log on the shore or swim out and rest. And I swam out, I rested, and I managed to get into shore. But that was the most adventurous time of my life, I assure you.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of episodes. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I can't even imagine. I'm sure you have endless stories on this. So you and I are going to have to chat about this later, because I want to hear them all. But I am so glad that water didn't take you away, because you have gone on to do so much incredible work. I'm so thankful you're here to do all of this. Because in particular, so let's talk about ALS for a second. You focused the last 30 years of your career on ALS, and it is such a crazy disease, and most doctors probably won't ever even encounter ALS in their career, because it is such sort of as we're calling it, unconventional disease. So for those that may not have encountered this or who aren't familiar with the disease, how would you describe that to them? Sort of, what is ALS?
ALS stands for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which really describes the pathology of the disease. It fits into a group of what we call neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease. But I would have to say that out of all our neurodegenerative and neurological diseases, ALS is certainly one of the most formidable ones. It involves progressive weakness, a survival that's limited, and really no laboratory abnormalities in general, aside from those associated with weakening muscle. So we don't have a large number of clues about the diagnosis, except there are certain gene mutations that cause about 5 to 10% of ALS, what we call inherited ALS. So they provide some clues here. We have a large number of clinical trials in ALS over the years. We have some wonderful academic centers that are involved in these clinical trials. We know how to support patients with respect to the weakness of respiratory muscles and difficulty eating. And we have a couple of FDA-approved drugs that target ALS, but they don't do as much as we want.
Okay. So, and you mentioned in there that the inherit. I want to talk about that for a second, because you told me that your research focused on both the inherit and the uninherited. So sort of what are those things? What's the difference between the two?
Well, at present, I think most academic centers will screen for over 20 genes associated with inherited ALS. So these are single genes that, when mutated, can cause ALS. The most common one has a funny name, C9orf72, chromosome 9, open reading frame 72. 40% of inherited ALS is caused by C9. And then the next one is mutant SOD1, superoxide dismutase type 1, maybe about 20%, 10 to 20%. And then there are a bunch of small genes. Most of these genes have been identified. And it could be that genes are very important in non-inherited ALS. It's just a number of genes and maybe environment that's important. So one of the important aspects of inherited ALS is we know exactly what caused this disease. For example, a mutation in C9orf72. And so people have been looking at ways to knock down this C9orf72. In other words, this is a gain in toxicity, an abnormal function of this mutated gene. And there are clinical trials now with C9orf72, mutant SOD1, and mutant FUS. We don't quite know whether these knockdowns will be successful, because maybe it starts a whole cascade, and maybe we need a number of drugs, like treatment of cancer in a way. On the other hand, if we have an individual who's at risk for inherited ALS, they carry the mutation, but they don't yet have the disease, it could be that this knockdown might be effective in at-risk individuals and even in patients that carry the disease. So this is kind of a frontier area. And how long has this been around? I mean, C9orf72 probably was described about 5 years ago. So it's a very exciting new area that takes advantage of the best technology that's continuing to be developed.
Wow. So it's kind of sounding like to me, so these genes that you were talking about, so we can actually identify those in people, so we can say that they could possibly have this mutation. We can identify that they could be more prone maybe to ALS in the future. Is that something we can identify?
So mostly these genes are what we call autosomal dominant, so that each generation there may be on the average 50% of those individuals that might carry this mutation. Now, we don't really know when this individual is going to get ALS that carries mutant C9. Maybe they'll die of a heart attack at age 80, or so we don't know. So on the other hand, maybe it's very important to observe these individuals on a regular basis with as sensitive way as we can and take advantage of the knowledge that they have a mutation.
Well, and now that we're talking about genes, you were telling me on the phone that your lab actually, that you guys made a discovery on a gene not too long ago either, right? Can you tell us about that and what you discovered and why it's so significant?
My lab was working for some time on mutant SOD1, but that's not nearly as common as C9orf72 mutations. And C9 mutations not only cause ALS, but they cause some other neurological diseases at times. And this C9 is a kind of interesting gene because genes have nucleotides, you know, G, C, A, T, T, A, C, G, 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 A, C. So there are 4 nucleotides. These C9 has repeats. In other words, G, 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 C, C, G, 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 C, C, G, G, G. Most people have 10, maybe 20 copies. But individuals who carry the mutation have hundreds or 1,000 copies of this hexanucleotide repeat. And interestingly, this repeat is in what we call the non-coding region. In other words, the gene makes RNA, makes protein, but the C9 protein is downstream of this repeat. Nevertheless, the repeat does make what we call DPRs, dipeptide repeat proteins. And these DPRs are made, these proteins are made, and we identified one of these DPRs as being toxic, and a particular factor, EIF2D, is very important in the production of this DPR. So we're now progressing. We looked at worms, we looked at cultured cells, and now we're looking at mice, and we're looking at what we call iPS cells, these kinds of embryonic human cells that are very interesting. So we got this published about a month ago, and I'm happy for all the support I got. I'm very happy about the ALS Association. They've been a wonderful group for me in so many ways, not only in the clinic, and Jumana Baroudi is very much in the clinic helping me with these patients, but also with respect to grants at times as well. So thank you, ALS Association.
Well, I know not only does the ALS Association absolutely love and adore you, and I know that personally firsthand because I was hearing it all, but it looks like you are making some fans here because we have some people that are just loving on you. We're getting so many. Julie was saying that you are a rock star who has such a compassion for and dedication to the ALS community. We have a viewer tuning in saying we're falling in love with, Dr. Roos, not Ross viewers, Dr. Roos, you guys. We're falling in love with Dr. Roos. He's totally captivating. Someone else is chiming in, thanking you so much for sharing your knowledge and letting us know how much they enjoy speaking to you. And a viewer just posted that Dr. Roos speaks with such a gentle and caring voice filled with knowledge, skill, and wisdom. We are so very blessed to be able to hear from him.
I don't know whether you see me blushing. At any rate, I've been in the ALS field a while. And when I first entered into the field, people talked about Charcot, who wrote about ALS over 100 years ago. And then new technologies were developed. And I'm optimistic that we will be able to have some effective treatments about ALS, mostly because of the incredible new technologies. So that in the past, it was very difficult to study molecular biological aspects of ALS. But now we have a window, and I think we could look in, examine things. There are some incredible things out there like CRISPR, and the Nobel Prize was won, I think, last year for CRISPR. It's a very powerful technology that we haven't really used in humans particularly, but it's a harbinger of what's to come. And we do have other really effective ways of knocking down genes besides CRISPR. So having been in the field for some decades, I'm really in awe now about what we could do. As I said, C9, the most common cause of inherited ALS, was discovered about 5 years ago. Nobody ever thought that a disease with this expanded repeat would be a major cause of inherited ALS. It turns out in neurology, we have over 30 repeat diseases, many. And my feeling is that when we examine these inherited causes of ALS, I think there's going to be important clues for sporadic, non-inherited ALS. It's not just a small little pimple that we're looking at, but it expands. It's important more globally, like prion disease in a way. Started with this village in New Guinea, and my God, we had mad cow disease and worldwide problems, issues. So it's kind of exciting about biology, science, and medicine.
I love that you get so excited about this, and you beat me to the punch, because I love that we're talking about this. I wanted to know, just from a basic level, for the average person that's watching this, who maybe doesn't, again, have daily contact with ALS and with this disease in general, like, what do we explain to them? So as you've said, research has come so far, and these technological advances are getting us so much further than they were. So beyond this gene discovery in the past 5 years, I mean, where do you think we stand today with ALS research, and how has that come so far in, even just the last 5-10 years, and where do you think it's going?
Those are complex questions, and difficult ones in a way. We do have 3 groups of treatments. Ones that involve these 2 FDA-approved drugs, which aren't as effective as we really want. Another group of symptomatic treatments, whether it's for breathing or eating or walking. And the third group are clinical trials. And at the University of Chicago, we're involved with the Healy Center that has 4 clinical trials, and we have a couple of other clinical trials. My guess is that there are probably 30 clinical trials going on now. I don't know which ones are going to be successful, but I could tell you that these clinical trials are very expensive. The pharmaceutical companies or the NIH or whatever's funding them spends a large amount of money, and they don't do it, just by a whim. They think that there's some reason to pursue this. And I'm hoping that it will be successful. And some of these clinical trials involve knockdown of the mutated genes that I'm very excited about. So I'd like to think that we have a really effective treatment soon. That's my goal. It's been kind of a goal for 30 years, but we're closer now. We're closer because we know how to do clinical trials very well.
Mm-hmm.
And we know a lot more about ALS than we did in the past.
Mm-hmm. One step closer every day. I just feel it. We're getting one step closer. And it's the more people I sort of talk to in this field, the more scientists and doctors like yourself. I mean, there is this sense of hope right now. And I feel it's stronger now than I even did, 10 years ago when I started there, even 13 years ago now, when I started diving into ALS. There is this newfound just hope and excitement that it's coming. And that gets me excited too.
I have to say I'm involved in a couple of foundation type groups that are focused on ALS. And these meetings have hundreds of scientists there. So ALS has captured the minds of our best thinkers and doers. And that's really what we need. Individuals who, like Carlton, are not going to pay attention to particular dogma and what's been known, but think a little bit out of the box.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's those brightest out of the box thinkers, like yourself included, I think, that are going to crack the code on this and that are going to get us to effective treatments. And I'm even going to be as bold as saying cure for ALS some point.
I hope and pray that we get a hit soon. That's going to be an important one as well.
Absolutely. Well, and speaking of ALS, as we've been talking, why ALS? I mean, you are so intelligent. I'm sure you had so many paths laid out in front of you of what you could go into. Why did you choose ALS? Why did you choose to focus on this for the majority of your career?
That's a good question. What you have to know is that my mother had polio at age 1. And they didn't think she was going to survive, but in fact, she did very well. And it wasn't until I was a neurologist. I actually ran a post-polio clinic, and I was involved in an ALS clinic. And I suddenly realized, I mean, what is polio? Polio is a muscle weakening condition. And my mother had an atrophic leg. And so, although I guess consciously I didn't pay attention so much to that, I think it was a driving force in my career, no question.
Okay. Is this what you always wanted to do? Did you wanted to go into the medical field? You wanted to be a doctor?
Well, my father was on the board of trustees of Maimonides Hospital in Brooklyn, and he had enormous respect for physicians. And although he never urged me or pushed me in any way to be a physician, I think he was very happy that I was. And my mother's brother was a GP on Long Island. And again, I was fascinated by how important he was in the community. So I think these things kind of turned me on to the medical profession. And it really wasn't quite that I was interested in laboratory work and science until I interacted with Carlton. And that kind of turned me on to the world of science.
So, I mean, I knew he was a mentor. I knew it was important to you, but I didn't realize he really put you on this trajectory of the path that you are on today. That's huge.
Important influence, no question.
Absolutely. And the path that you are on today has been beyond successful. So we touched on that a little bit earlier, that not only are you running your own lab, which you've had this huge, amazing discovery, and, and congratulations. And like you said, you just got published about a month ago. This is huge, but you're also the director of our ALS clinic at the University of Chicago. So what does that mean? Let's tell the viewers exactly what that means and sort of what the clinic does.
Well, first, I want to say that if I've done anything, it's really as a result of the support that I've had from so many individuals, as well as the ALS Association. And I can't provide a list, of course, it's so long. I never would have been able to do anything without interactions and support. The clinic, we usually have patients referred either from colleagues of mine at the university or elsewhere in the Chicago area. We have this clinic at the moment 3 days a month. And I work with 2 other colleagues, Kourosh Razania and Betty Sullivan. And we have a wonderful staff as well, Alex Carmona and a new person coming on. And we have a team, really the ALS Association team, headed by Germana, physical therapist, occupational therapist, a swallow speech person, social worker. So it's kind of a multidisciplinary approach. I actually think that kind of approach would be very valuable in many different diseases, not only neurological ones. And I'm very fortunate that I have this team because there's so much knowledge there in directing and guiding and supporting patients. It's very fortunate.
Yeah, you guys are doing some really great work. And like you touch on, it's on all the levels. You're not just attacking this from just one side, you're attacking this from every. You guys are doing some really great work there. And so as this, I keep saying it because I'm so proud of you for this, you have these 2 roles in your life. You are running this lab where you're really diving into the research and all of these things we've been talking about, making these discoveries and working that angle to help find a cure and preventative treatment and treatment while you have ALS. But then on the other side of this, as your position as the director for the ALS clinic at the University of Chicago, you're interacting with individuals, you're getting to work firsthand with those that are battling the disease. So what have these 2 roles, because they're very different, you're on both ends of the spectrum here, what have these 2 roles taught you, and sort of how have they inspired and impacted your work?
That's a good question. There are many PhDs that are in the lab, and there are many MDs that are in the clinic. And in the old days, there are people who did both. And in fact, Carlton Gadashek was an MD. He was a pediatrician, actually trained, not a PhD. And the NIH was really filled with people who might not have both a PhD and an MD. And I think it's very insightful to be able to see the disease, to see the patients, to see the problems, and also work in the laboratory. I'm not saying that having a PhD is wonderful and great, or having an MD, but there's also value in seeing both sides in a way. Mm-hmm. And so I've been very fortunate to have that ability.
And having this ability to do this. I mean, now you interact with the ALS Association, you get to meet all of the wonderful team that we have over there, because I just worship the ground they walk on too. What have they meant to you? I know you said that was such a huge impact, that's made a huge impact in your career. What does the ALS Association mean to you, and how have they impacted sort of the man and the doctor that you are today? These are heavy. I'm hitting you with some heavy things tonight. I'm sorry.
Complex question. And what you have to know is Jumana Barudi, who is very important in the ALS Association Chicago chapter, actually worked in my clinic prior to going to the ALS Association.
So we stole her from you, is basically what you're saying. We stole her.
I ran out of dollars, actually, but she's a perfect person for that position. So there's certainly a lot of interaction here, a history here. And the ALS Association has been a fantastic advocate for ALS patients, not only in Chicago, but across the United States. And they have been very valuable for me, because an individual might want to come to the University of Chicago or go somewhere or inquire in the ALS Association. So it's been very valuable to have good relationships with the ALS Association. And they've also been extremely helpful to me, not only with respect to the team, which is great, but also financially at times. So I owe a lot to the ALS Association. Thank you.
I know I'm going to go out on a limb. I can speak for them when I say no thank you. I guarantee all of them would be thanking you for everything you've done. And like I said, this is tough work. This is not easy. There are so many different avenues within the medical and even research field that you could go into that would probably be a lot easier. You picked a tough one, but the work you're doing, it matters. And you guys are making huge strides, like you've pointed out to us, huge strides. And I just know that it's going to keep going. It's a snowball effect. Like you've cracked one thing. So, and it's just opening up to it's going to keep happening. I just have the best feelings for this. I do. I do. I would like to see.
We need a fan club. Yeah. And we're going to put you as the head of the fan club.
I will do it. I will take this on. I love it. We're starting today with the viewers that are watching, because you're building your fan club already, by the way. Everyone's loving you. And I do love seeing that. And speaking of you, I found out a little bit of information about you that I don't know if it's true or not. So I want to, hopefully you're not going to be embarrassed to say this, but I heard this little rumor that maybe you have something in common with a famous TV doctor named Doogie Howser. Is there something, how old were you when you started medical school?
When I started medical school, I was 20.
Ooh.
So
that is young.
Skipped a grade or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the only thing I have in common.
I think it is. I think it is. I mean, you were younger than everyone else in medical school. You skipped multiple grades, and you started your work as you were already a genius.
I don't know about that, but it's been a very treasured experience, and I feel very fortunate to work with ALS patients.
What do you think? I know this is probably absolutely impossible. Oh, look at this. We've got our first member. Love and support. I think that's Jabana. She loves and supports you, and definitely will be joining this fan club. Who else is in? Let us know if you're watching the show in the comment section. Who else is joining the Dr. Roos fan club? Look at Everybody, everybody is joining. It's happening. It's happening.
Sounds good.
We're starting it. But Dr. Roos, you, I know this is probably an absolutely impossible question, so I'm sorry to even ask this. But over your long career, I mean, what is one of, like you said, there's been so many great moments in your career, so many people that have inspired you and that have impacted. What's maybe one of the most memorable moments that you've had in your career that just kind of fills your heart up, that gives you that feeling of, this is why I do this. This was my mission.
I tell this story sometimes, but it was impactful. I had a nurse, Roberta Marsha, and we were in the clinic, and a pastor brought in his wife in a wheelchair that had ALS. And, you know, I was feeling very helpless and awkward and didn't think that we had so much to offer. And Roberta spoke to the woman and she said, "I know what you need." And the woman kind of looked up, and Roberta said, "You need a shampoo and hairstyling." What you have to understand is Roberta, prior to becoming a nurse, worked in a hair salon. So anyway, she took this lady in the back room and gave her a shampoo and stuff. And the lady left the clinic beaming, smiling, and feeling good. And so what's the moral of the story is sometimes drugs are good, vaccines are good, monoclonal antibodies are good, but also knowing people care is very important to individuals. Knowing that there's someone out there who will do anything for you. And so that was a very important lesson that Roberta taught me.
Well, I think it hit home because just from our conversations and from hearing people talk about you, that's exactly what you do. That's been sort of the common theme. You are so caring in your interactions. And like you said, you've had the ability to get to see both sides. You get to be in the lab, you get to be with patients, you get to see firsthand what your impact is doing, what your research is getting you closer to, and the people that you're physically helping. I think that's amazing. So that lesson has absolutely stayed with you all of these years.
It's a great story and a true one. Yep.
Well, and you guys, and I feel it too, and I have to say the ALS Association, that's exactly how I would describe them too. You guys are this perfect pairing. You're this great team between the clinic and everybody at Care Services, everyone on the staff at the ALS Association. That's exactly what they're doing every day. You guys have the biggest hearts because it's not just science here. It is about the patients that you guys are helping every day. And it's beautiful to watch. Yeah, it is. You guys are just so caring. It's so beautiful to get to see all of this playing out. I love this. Oh. Everyone's being so active tonight. I love this, you guys. Everyone's loving you. Dr. Roos, that's so fun. People are chiming in saying the key of life to care for one another. Thank you for that beautiful story. And Jessica chimed in with, we did that for her grandmother when she was diagnosed. She got her hair done and nails done, and it was so wonderful for her self-esteem. It's really beautiful.
No question.
No, yeah, absolutely. I love that. Now, a couple more before we have to let you go tonight, because I know you're so busy and you have to get back so that you can keep finding these discoveries and get us closer to a cure. So I can't keep you forever as much as I want to. But at this moment in time, what do you think is the biggest challenge with ALS right now?
Well, you know, we have this desperate disease. We need an effective treatment, not one that is just going to take care of symptoms, but one that's going to really target the underlying disease process. And we don't have that yet. One of the things that may be worth mentioning is prior to the polio vaccine being developed in the early 50s, very knowledgeable scientists said that polio will never be conquered. And these were very knowledgeable people. So science does that sometimes. In other words, you have a wall that you don't think you'll ever be able to get around, and there's some discovery, whether it's CRISPR or whatever, that allows you to get across that wall. So that to me is the biggest challenge at the moment.
Getting past that wall. Well, every day I feel like it will. It will. You guys are chipping away. You are just leading the charge, and you and all, like you said, the brightest minds right now that are working on ALS, you guys are chipping away at that wall, like stone by stone, and we're going to get there. So before you go, what would you say, maybe everyone that's watching this or that is going to watch this, do you have any call to action that you would like to encourage them to maybe remember, think about, get involved with when it comes to just life in general or ALS?
Well, this may not be the answer to your question, but one of the things that I have found inspiring about patients is almost always they're very upbeat. In other words, rather than obsess about their problems and so forth, they're able to find pleasure in life, and in a way that's a challenge for everyone. Everyone has certain problems and issues and difficulties. Everyone's going to die. Nobody knows when, and nevertheless, we enjoy life. And so I think trying to find enjoyment in life is very important, no matter what.
That is that is an answer to the question. That is a great challenge for everyone watching to remember that, to let's just find joy in all of the things, good, bad, all of it. Let's find the positive and find the joy in all of those moments.
No question.
Absolutely. Dr. Roos, you are so amazing. Thank you. Seriously, I know you're so busy between everything. So thank you so much for taking the time to sort of sit down and explain to us, walk us through where we are today, where we're going in the future, and how we are going to end this disease together. Thank you for everything.
Well, thank you for inviting me and listening. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And you and I are going to have to talk so much more, because I'm serious. I just want to hear all these amazing stories.
I'll send you a couple of memoirs. So.
I love it. I love it. Again, thank you for everything you've done. We're so lucky to have you on our team. And I can't wait to see your name up next to Discover the Cure for ALS. We're going to make that happen.
I'll try.
Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Night.
You guys, how amazing was Dr. Roos? And this was a heavy sort of topic with all of this research and the science, but I think it's so important for us to just understand the breakdown of what we are doing, where we are headed, and what is to come for the future of this. And you got to hear firsthand from one of the most incredible doctors, researchers, and scientists that is working in the lab every day with this and with the patients. You get to hear from him sort of where we are going with this and what they're discovering. So a huge thank you to Dr. Roos for everything him and his team have done and continue to do. And I love seeing this hope. Like I said, it's the common theme lately. All the doctors that I've been talking to, they're so hopeful that we are on the cusp of something huge here, and it's your help that is continuing to get us closer to finding a cure. So thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. You can always head over to the ALS Association's website. I know Sam can put that up into the link, alsachicago.org, because as Dr. Roos mentioned, this is very expensive to continue this research and to get us closer to finding a cure. So your help is huge with all of that. So if you feel so compelled, please make a donation to the ALS Association at alsa.org. All of that money goes into funding all of the amazing research that you were hearing about in tonight's episode. It goes to providing all of the services to everyone that we care for with ALS free of charge. So no matter how big or small that donation is, it goes a very long way. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back again on, I believe, February 15th for our next episode with some love happening for Valentine's Day. And until then, everybody, be bright and shine your light. We'll see you next time.